The only light breathes from the embers of the dying forge, painting long, dancing shadows that twist like ghosts across the soot-stained walls. Each soft hiss of cooling iron is a whisper in the otherwise silent dark, punctuated by the lonely crackle of the coals. Outside, beyond the great open doors, the village green is a sea of black. But here, inside, the air is thick and close, heavy with the ghosts of a day's labor, the lingering smell of sweat, hot metal, and the sharp bite of coal smoke. A single piece of paper, folded and unfolded so many times its creases are as soft as old linen, rustles faintly in your hand. It's in these quiet, forgotten moments, isn't it, that history is truly felt? Not in the grand speeches or the thunder of cannons, but right here, in the suffocating silence of a choice waiting to be made. Hi, Guy. Tonight we delve into the heart of 1776, a year that forged a nation from the fires of rebellion. Our story is one of loyalty tested by blood, of a family torn apart by two different ideas of freedom, all catalyzed by a single letter from home. You'll feel the heat of the forge, the sting of betrayal, and the chilling weight of uncertainty as we journey through the eyes of Juno Gray, a member of the Committee of Safety. You probably won't survive this, so before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Post your location and local time below. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand in the flickering lamplight of a blacksmith's forge, the air thick with the smell of coal and sweat. The day's work is done. The hammers are silent, the anvil cold to the touch. But you are not the smith. You are merely borrowing his hearth for a moment of privacy that the tavern, or your own small quarters, could never afford. A worn letter rests in your calloused hand, its contents a blend of hope and dread, sent from your family miles away, across a land that feels more fractured with every passing day. For the fifth time tonight, your eyes trace the familiar, spidery script of your younger brother Thomas. You know the words by heart now, yet you read them again as if a different meaning might somehow emerge from the ink. My dearest Juno, the harvest was meager, but Mother says we have enough to see us through the winter if we are careful. The redcoats have not been seen near our roads for a month, which is some small comfort. But the fear, sister, the fear is a worse plague than any army. It turns neighbors into strangers, and strangers into spies. You pause, your thumb rubbing over the worn paper. You can picture him writing this, his brow furrowed in the dim candlelight of the family kitchen, the same kitchen where you learned to knead bread, and he learned to read. He was always the gentle one, the one who worried. You continue reading, your gaze skipping down to the part that coils like a serpent in your gut. There is talk of new taxes, not from the king this time, but from the Congress. To fund the army, they say. Mr. Abernathy was furious. He stood on a barrel in the market and called it a new tyranny for an old one. Some men cheered him. Others, like father, just walked away, their faces grim. The lines are being drawn ever deeper, Juno. And the Morgans, they speak openly of loyalty to the crown. Daniel was here just last week. He says this rebellion is a fool's errand, led by arrogant men who will see us all ruined. He asked after you. I did not know what to say. You fold the letter slowly, the sharp creases aligning with a practiced precision. Daniel Morgan. Not the fiery rifleman from Virginia who shares his name, but your Daniel, your cousin, the boy you'd caught frogs with in the creek behind your home. Now a man whose pessimism felt like a personal betrayal. His words, even second-hand, are a bitter draught. He sees ruin. You, in your work for the Committee of Safety, are sworn to see a republic. You spend your days rooting out loyalists, seizing their weapons, ensuring a steady stream of supplies flows to the Continental Army. It's a messy, thankless, and often cruel business. You tell yourself it is for the greater good, for the future Thomas writes about with such trembling uncertainty. But your cousin's words, his skepticism, echo the deepest, most secret doubt in your own heart. A shadow falls across the forge entrance, pulling you from your reverie. A tall, lean figure blocks the moonlight, his silhouette sharp and familiar. Burning the midnight oil, Juno? Or just burning letters from home? Quote. The voice is dry, laced with a weariness that goes beyond simple fatigue. Daniel Morgan steps into the warm, flickering light, and the space, which a moment ago felt like a sanctuary, now feels like a cage. He looks much as he did when you were children. The same dark, unruly hair, the same piercing eyes that always seem to see a little too much. But now his mouth is set in a permanent, cynical line. You slip the letter into the inner pocket of your waistcoat. Daniel, I didn't expect to see you. I'm sure you didn't, he says, his eyes sweeping over the forge. He nudges a pair of tongs with the toe of his boot. Conspiring with the blacksmith? Forging more than just horseshoes, are we? Perhaps a few pikes for the local militia. A grand and glorious cause, isn't it? Quote, the sarcasm is a blunt instrument, and you refuse to let it strike home. It's a just cause. Is it? He takes another step closer, his gaze landing on you. Tell me, cousin, is it just to tear a country in two? To turn brother against brother? His eyes flick toward the pocket where you hid the letter. How is Thomas? And your mother and father? Are they enjoying this new liberty? The one that lets self-important committees steal a man's property because he won't swear allegiance to a flag that didn't exist a year ago? Quote, your jaw tightens. This is his way. He never attacks you directly, not with overt anger. He uses questions, dripping with feigned concern, to pick at the very foundations of your belief. He knows your weak point is your family. They are surviving, you say, your voice cooler than you feel, which is more than can be said for some. He lets out a short, humorless laugh. Ah, yes, surviving. The great promise of this revolution. Not prosperity, not peace, but mere survival. You're asking people to trade the wealthiest empire on earth for what? The right to be governed by hotheads from Boston and Virginia? He shakes his head, a gesture of profound disappointment. I saw another one today. A deserter. From Schuyler's army up north. Just a boy. Younger than Thomas. Found him sleeping in a barn, half-starved and weeping. Said he signed on for adventure and patriotism. All he found was dysentery, empty promises, and officers who treat their men like cattle. Quote, you try to keep your expression neutral, but the mention of a deserter pricks at you. It's a constant problem. Men who lose their nerve, their conviction, or simply their will to live in squalor. What was his name? You ask the question automatic, a reflex from your work on the committee. Daniel's expression hardens slightly. Why? So you can post his name on the church door, so your committee can brand him a coward and seize his family's farm? The Baker family has been through enough. Quote, Jemima Baker. The name registers faintly. A quiet family, kept to themselves. A daughter, you recall. Naive and shy. You had heard she'd run off, but the rumor was she'd gone to follow a soldier, not become one. You file the name away. A problem for another day. Right now, the problem is standing right in front of you. It's the law, Daniel. Desertion is a betrayal of the cause. The cause, he scoffs, his voice low and intense. He finally closes the distance between you, standing so near you can feel the chill of the night air clinging to his coat. Your cause is built on sand, Juno, on the misplaced hopes of frightened farmers and the ambitions of men who crave power. When the tide comes in, and it is coming, it will wash you all away. And what will you have to show for it? A hangman's noose, and a family that wishes you'd just stayed home. His words are cruel because they are a twisted reflection of the fears in Thomas's letter. He's taking the anxieties of your family and sharpening them into a weapon against you. You feel a surge of anger, hot and quick, but you swallow it down. Showing him your anger is showing him your weakness. Your deceitful nature, the one that serves you so well on the committee, takes over. You force a small, tired smile. You've always been a pessimist, Daniel. Even as a boy, you were convinced every summer storm was a hurricane. Quote, he doesn't return the smile. His eyes are dark with a sad, frustrating certainty. And you always had your head in the clouds, convinced you could wish the storm away? Some things, Juno, you can't wish away. Some things simply have to be endured. He holds your gaze for a long moment, a silent plea passing between you that neither of you is willing to acknowledge. It's a plea for the time before all this. Before committees and loyalties and causes that demanded everything. Then, as quietly as he arrived, he turns and walks away, melting back into the darkness of the village green. He leaves you alone in the dying light of the forge, the air suddenly colder, his words hanging in the smoky air like an unanswered sentence. You are left with the silence, the faint crackle of the embers, and the weight of your brother's letter in your pocket, now heavier than any blacksmith's hammer. The silence Daniel leaves behind is heavier than any anvil. His footsteps fade, swallowed by the immense, quiet dark of the green. leaving you with only the soft sigh of the embers and the frantic beating of your own heart. His words, sharpened by the anxieties in your brother's letter, have found their mark. A hangman's noose and a family that wishes you just stayed home. You press your hand against the pocket of your waistcoat, the crisp edges of the letter, a painful reminder of the world you are fighting for, a world that seems to be cracking under the strain. You came here seeking clarity, but you've only found more shadows. A rustle near the entrance. Not the confident stride of your cousin, but a furtive, dragging sound. A scrape of leather on stone, followed by a choked sob. You turn, your hand instinctively dropping from your waistcoat to rest near the small pistol tucked into your belt. A figure collapses just inside the doorway, a mess of rags and mud barely illuminated by the forge's glow. It's a girl, or a young woman, though it's hard to tell beneath the grime and the ragged, oversized man's coat she wears. Her hair is a matted tangle, and her face is pale and gaunt, her breathing coming in shallow, ragged bursts. She pushes herself up onto her hands and knees, her eyes wide with a feral terror as she sees you. "Please," she whispers, the word cracking in her throat. Don't send me back." Quote, your mind works quickly, piecing it together. The boy Daniel mentioned. The deserter from Schuyler's army. The Baker family. This isn't a boy. It's Jemima, the naive, shy girl you vaguely remembered. You feel a cold knot of professional obligation tighten in your stomach. A deserter is a deserter, a threat to morale, an example to be made. But looking at her now, shivering and broken on the dusty floor, the words of the law feel hollow and cruel. You soften your voice, letting your hand fall away from your belt. Your deceitful nature, so useful in interrogations and back-alley dealings, cloaks you now in a convincing guise of compassion. "You're safe for the moment," you say, your tone gentle. "Come closer to the fire." You look half frozen. She hesitates, her eyes darting from you to the dark corners of the forge, as if expecting soldiers to materialize from the shadows. But the lure of the warmth is too strong. She shuffles forward, crawling more than walking, until she's huddled near the glowing embers, her hands held out to the phantom heat. Her fingers are raw and red, the knuckles split and bleeding. "What is your name?" you ask, keeping your voice low and even. "Jemima," she rasps. "Jemima Baker." She glances up at you, a flicker of recognition in her haunted eyes. You're Juno Gray." "I am." You let the statement hang in the air. You are the Committee of Safety, the authority she is fleeing from. Her face crumples. "Oh, God." Then it's over. Tears trace clean paths through the dirt on her cheeks. "They'll send me back," he said. He said they flog you until the bones show. "Who said that?" you ask, kneeling a few feet away, creating the illusion of shared space, of safety. "Captain Davies. He did it to a boy from Connecticut, for stealing a crust of bread. We all had to watch." Her voice is a monotone, the horror recounted with the detached exhaustion of one who has seen too much. "The captain, he had a full plate of ham that night. We could smell it from our tents. We hadn't eaten anything but watery soup in 3 days." The words strike a dissonant chord. You've spent countless hours requisitioning supplies, redirecting grain shipments, securing blankets and boots for the army. You've seen the manifests, signed the orders. The supplies were there, they had to be. The Continental Congress provides for its soldiers, you state, the words sounding more like a question than a fact. Jemima emits a sound that is half sob, half bitter laugh. "They provide paper, promises. We were at Crown Point, building defenses. We were promised salted beef and hardtack. What we got was flour so full of weevils, it moved on its own. The quartermaster, a man from Philadelphia, he sold the good barrels to the local farmers for silver. We all knew it. But if you spoke up, you were insubordinate. If you complained, you were a Tory at heart." Quote. She pulls the ragged coat tighter around her thin shoulders. "I joined because my brother did. He died of the flux before he ever saw a red coat. I thought I was honoring him. I cut my hair, I bound my chest, I wanted to believe in it. In General Washington. In liberty." She looks directly at you, and for the first time, her naivete is gone, replaced by a profound and chilling disillusionment. But there is no liberty in starving while your officers get drunk on French wine. There is no honor in watching your friends die from camp fever because there's no medicine. The war isn't with the British. It's with the cold. It's with the hunger. It's with our own. Quote. Her story weaves a tapestry of despair, each thread a detail that snags at the fabric of your conviction. She speaks of men from different states brawling in the mud, of New Englanders who despised Virginians, of Pennsylvanians who wouldn't share their meager supplies. It's not an army she describes, but a collection of disparate, desperate gangs held together by a fraying thread of ideology. An ideology you champion. An ideology you enforce. Mr. Abernathy calling it a new tyranny for an old one. The words from your brother's letter surface unbidden. You see his worried face, hear the fear in his script. The lines are being drawn ever deeper, Juno. You had imagined those lines were between patriot and loyalist. But Jemima is drawing new lines, between the powerful and the powerless, the orator and the soldier, the promise and the grim reality. Why did you run? You ask, your voice barely a whisper. Why now? They were going to move us north, she says, her gaze fixed on the dying embers, to assault Quebec again. In the winter. It's a suicide mission. Everyone knows it. The first attempt was a disaster. Men froze to death on the march. Now they want to send us back into that meat grinder. For what? For a piece of land we can't hold? For the glory of some general in a warm tent miles away? She shakes her head slowly. I didn't sign up to die for a rich man's map. I just wanted to go home. Quote, the cause is built on sand. Daniel's voice, a ghost in the smoky air. When the tide comes in, it will wash you all away. You look at this broken girl, this living testament to his cynicism, and you feel the ground shift beneath your feet. Your work on the committee, the risks you take, the enemies you make, it has all been buoyed by the certainty that you are on the right side of history, that the sacrifice is worth the prize. But what if the sacrifice is pointless? What if you are merely feeding children like Jemima and Thomas into a machine that runs on their hope and grinds them into despair? The doubt is no longer a secret whisper in your heart. It's a roar, drowning out the patriotic anthems and grand declarations. It's the smell of dysentery in a crowded tent. It's the sound of a flogging. It's the sight of a captain eating ham while his soldiers starve. A soft crunch of a boot on the gravel outside snaps you both to attention. Jemima flinches violently, scrambling backward like a cornered animal. You rise slowly, your body tense. Daniel Morgan steps back into the light, his expression unreadable. He doesn't look at you. His dark, pitying eyes are fixed on Jemima, huddled by the forge. He must have been waiting, lurking in the darkness, knowing where she would run. He lets the silence stretch, allowing the tableau to sink in. You, the stern agent of the revolution. Her, its wretched victim. Then his gaze shifts to you, and in his eyes you see not triumph, but a deep, sorrowful confirmation of everything he believes. He gives a small, almost imperceptible shake of his head. You see, Juno, he says, his voice quiet, yet it cuts through the forge's silence like a razor. This is the glorious cause. This is the new world you're building. He takes a step closer, his presence commanding the space between you. Not with speeches and declarations, but with this. With broken children hiding in the dark, terrified of the very people who claim to be their saviors. Quote, he doesn't need to say more. He has presented his evidence, and it is breathing, crying, and shivering at your feet. He watches you, a hawk waiting to see which way you'll turn, reveling in the schism he has cracked open right down the center of your soul. Your brother's letter feels like a block of ice in your pocket. The forge, your borrowed sanctuary, is now a courtroom, and you are both judge and defendant, trapped between the law you serve and the damning truth that now sits before you. The world narrows to the three of you, caught in the forge's last, desperate light. Daniel, a pillar of righteous cynicism. Jemima, a heap of broken conviction. And you, the fulcrum on which their fates now pivot. Daniel's accusation, this is the new world you're building, is not an attack. It's a mirror, and in it, you see the reflection of your own deepest fears. The ones whispered by your brother's letter, the ones you've ruthlessly suppressed with every requisition order you signed and every Tory you condemned. You feel the paper in your pocket, a talisman that has suddenly turned to poison. Thomas's words about new tyrannies and deepening lines are no longer the frightened ramblings of a boy. They are a prophecy, and Jemima is its proof. The cause you've bled for, lied for, and been willing to die for is not a monolith of righteous fury. It is, as Jemima described, a fractured thing of squabbling, greedy men, powered by the naivete of those they are willing to sacrifice. The anger you swallowed earlier returns, but it has changed. It is no longer hot and defensive. It is cold, sharp, and clear. It's not anger at Daniel for his pessimism, but at the men Jemima described, the quartermasters selling supplies, the officers dining on ham while their soldiers ate weevils. They are the true betrayers. They are the ones rotting the revolution from the inside out. Your cause is not built on sand, as Daniel claimed. It's being devoured by parasites. Your gaze shifts from Jemima's terrified face to Daniel's waiting one. He expects you to defend the committee, to spout some patriotic nonsense about sacrifice and the greater good. He expects you to arrest the girl. He expects weakness or blind zeal. You will give him neither. This is the moment. The choice. To retreat into the comforting lies of the cause, or to step into the terrifying truth of its execution. To be a loyal soldier, or to become the thing the committee hunts, a conspirator. Your creative, deceitful mind, the one that makes you so effective, sees a third path. Not his, not yours, but something new, forged right here in the heat and shadows. You take a slow, deliberate breath, letting the silence stretch until it becomes a weapon. Then you turn your back on Jemima, a gesture of dismissal that is entirely for show, and face your cousin fully. You're right, you say. The words are quiet, but they land with the force of a hammer blow in the silent forge. Daniel's smug certainty flickers, replaced by a flicker of confusion. He had his counter-arguments ready, his next cynical barb poised. Your simple agreement has disarmed him. She is the result of this war, you continue, your voice low and intense, meant for him alone, but not for the reasons you think. You see a fool's errand. I see a righteous idea being poisoned by corrupt and incompetent men. Men like her Captain Davies. Men like the quartermaster who sells the army's food for silver. Quote. You take a step toward him, closing the distance he created. The hunter has become the hunted. You think I don't know? You think I spend my days signing papers and don't hear the whispers? I see the manifests for barrels of salted beef that somehow turn to dust before they reach the front. I authorize payments for boots that never appear on the soldier's feet. I am fighting a war on two fronts, Daniel. One against the crown, and another against the rot in our own ranks. This is a lie. A beautiful, plausible, and powerful lie. You had your suspicions, your professional frustrations, but you had never seen the rot with such stark clarity until Jemima laid it at your feet. Now you claim that knowledge as your own, weaving her truth into a narrative of your own design. Daniel's eyes narrow. He is searching your face for the trick, the deception he knows you are capable of. A touching speech, Juno. Are you recruiting me now? Has the committee grown so desperate they're seeking out loyalists to help clean their house? Quote, Don't be an idiot, you snap, the insult a calculated risk to break through his wall of cynicism. The committee is part of the problem. They're politicians, most of them. They see maps and votes and legacies. They don't see her. You flick your head back toward Jemima, who is watching the exchange with wide, uncomprehending eyes. They would see a deserter, an inconvenience to be punished and forgotten, a loose thread to be snipped. They cannot see that the thread, if pulled, could unravel the whole rotten tapestry. Quote, You lower your voice even further, drawing him into a conspiracy. You hate this rebellion. I know. But you hate the arrogance of powerful men more. I've known you my whole life. You despise the king's ministers in London for the same reason you despise the hotheads in Congress, because they play games with the lives of ordinary people. With our family. With Thomas. Quote, The mention of his name is a deliberate blow. You see it land. His jaw tightens. Leave him out of this, he says, his voice a low growl. I can't, you press on, relentless. Because he's next. He's the next boy to be swept up by a patriotic speech, handed a rusty musket, and sent to die of hunger or disease because some man in a silk waistcoat wanted to line his pockets. Is that the world you want? To win your argument but lose your family? You let that question hang in the air, a foul smoke. You have him. He is a pessimist, but his pessimism is rooted in a genuine fear for the people caught in the middle. You are offering him a way to act on that fear. What do you want, Juno? He finally asks, the fight draining from his voice, replaced by a weary caution. Here it is. The calculated risk. The offer that could see you hanged by your own side. Her, you say, nodding toward Jemima. I want her story. Every name, every date, every stolen barrel of flour. I want the names of the officers, the quartermasters, the suppliers. You found her. You can get it from her. She trusts you more than she'll ever trust me. You watch his mind work, piecing together your gambit. And what will you do with this information, he asks. Take it to your committee? Quote, no, you say, and the certainty in your voice is absolute. I will take it to the men who are being cheated, to the soldiers in the camps. The truth, Daniel, it's a better weapon than any pike or musket. An army that won't follow its officers is no army at all. Let the men see who their real enemy is. Let them deal with the Captain Davies of this war themselves. It is a plan born of desperation and deceit. It is mutiny. Sedition. You are proposing to arm the soldiers not with weapons, but with a truth that will turn them against their own leaders. It's a fire that, once lit, could burn everything to the ground, the corrupt and the innocent alike. Daniel stares at you for a long time, the silence stretching. The dying embers cast long shadows across his face, making it impossible to read his expression. He looks at Jemima, a small, broken thing, who has inadvertently become the fulcrum of a new, far more dangerous war. Then his eyes return to you. They hold no warmth, no cousinly affection. They hold only the cold, hard appraisal of a co-conspirator. And her? He asks, his voice flat. What happens to her when you have what you want? Quote, I protect her, you say simply. I will create a record of her desertion, but list her as deceased, lost on patrol, a casualty of the war she fled. I'll bury an empty coffin if I have to. She can disappear. You can help her get home, or somewhere else. Somewhere safe. I give her a life, and she gives me the ammunition I need. He lets out a slow breath, a wisp of vapor in the cold air. It's the sound of a man standing on the edge of a cliff, deciding whether to jump. You would risk everything on this. Your position, your life. The cause is already at risk, you counter. From the inside. This is the only way to save it. By cutting out the cancer before it kills the patient. Quote. He gives a short, humorless laugh, a flash of his old cynical self. You finally found a rebellion I can believe in, cousin. One against the rebels themselves. He hasn't said yes, not yet, but the alliance is already forged. It hangs between you, invisible and heavy, sealed by a shared distrust of the very powers you each serve. He takes a step back, putting a careful distance between you again. Get her out of sight, he commands, his tone shifting from adversary to partner. The blacksmith will be back at dawn. No one can know she was here. I will meet you at the old trapper's cabin by the creek tomorrow night. Have her ready to talk. He doesn't wait for your reply. He turns and is gone, a shadow swallowed by other shadows. You are alone again, but the silence is different now. It is not empty. It is filled with the terrifying weight of your decision. You turn to Jemima, who has watched the entire exchange with the stunned terror of a mouse watching two cats decide its fate. Come, you say, your voice softer now, but with a new edge of command. We have work to do. Quote. You help her to her feet, her body trembling, light as a bundle of sticks. As you lead her out the back of the forge and into the suffocating darkness, you press your hand to your pocket. The letter is still there. A letter from home that set this all in motion. You came to the forge tonight seeking privacy to reread it, to find some comfort or clarity. You leave with a secret that could save your family or destroy everything you've ever fought for. You have made your choice. You have forged your alliance. And now you must live with the consequences. The alley behind the forge is a sliver of perfect blackness, a cold, damp space between buildings that smells of night soil and wet stone. Jemima stumbles beside you, a fragile weight against your arm. Her fear is a palpable thing, radiating from her in waves, making her tremble with each scrape of a distant shutter or bark of a dog. You guide her through the labyrinth of unlit backways and sleeping yards, your mind a whirlwind. The alliance you've just forged with Daniel is a desperate, treasonous thing. It feels less like a pact and more like two people who hate each other agreeing to set a fire, each hoping it will only burn down the other's house. You stop before the rear door of the chandler's shop. A single, quiet knock, 3 taps, a pause, then 2 more, is answered by the sound of a bolt being drawn. The door cracks open, revealing the worried, doughy face of Mr. Hemlock, a man whose quiet loyalty to the cause is measured in the extra candles and casks of oil he provides without entry in his ledger. He doesn't ask questions, merely nods at the pathetic creature clinging to your arm and gestures you both inside, into the cloying, waxy darkness of his storeroom. He leads you to a trap door hidden beneath a stack of burlap sacks. "The root cellar," he whispers. "It's dry. She'll be safe until morning." He gives you a half loaf of bread, a jug of water, and a thick wool blanket before melting back into the shadows of his own home. You lead Jemima down the narrow steps into the earthy-smelling dark. The cellar is small, the air still and cool. You light a single candle stump, its small flame pushing back the oppressive blackness just enough to reveal the stone walls and the packed dirt floor. You hand her the bread and water. She takes them without a word, her eyes still wide and haunted, and devours the food with a desperation that churns your stomach. Watching her, you feel a flicker of your practiced compassion. This is what you are fighting against: the desperation, the hunger. And yet, she is also the instrument you intend to use to dismantle the very command you serve. The thought sits like a stone in your gut. The next day passes in a blur of feigned normalcy. You attend a committee meeting, your face an impassive mask, as you listen to reports of supply shortages and dwindling enlistments. Every word feels different now, filtered through the lens of Jemima's story. Are the shortages real, or is it theft? Is the low morale a product of war weariness, or is it being actively sown? For the first time, you feel as though you are seeing the true shape of the war, a shadowy beast of intrigue and betrayal lurking just beneath the surface of the conflict you thought you knew. As dusk bleeds across the sky, you retrieve Jemima and lead her out of the village, following the winding path toward the creek. The old trapper's cabin is a ruin, barely more than a skeleton of rotting logs slumped against a hillside, but its isolation is its virtue. You build a small fire, the smoke curling up to escape through the gaping holes in the roof. Jemima huddles by the flames, wrapped in the blanket, while you watch the path, waiting. Daniel arrives just as the last of the light fails, moving with a woodsman's silence. He gives a curt nod, his face grim in the firelight. He carries a small satchel from which he produces a heel of cheese and a small flask. He offers them to Jemima. It is a mirror of your own gesture from the night before, an attempt to purchase trust. "We need you to tell us everything," he says, his voice softer than you are used to. "The story you told Juno last night. The names of the men, the places, the dates. Every detail matters." Jemima nods, her eyes fixed on the fire. She begins to speak, her voice a low, raspy monotone. It is the same story she told you in the forge. Crown Point, the weevil-infested flour, Captain Davies and his plate of ham, the quartermaster from the 3rd Pennsylvania Regiment selling good barrels of beef for silver. It is a litany of corruption and despair, and you can see Daniel absorbing it, his own dark view of the rebellion being validated with every word. He looks at you with an expression that says, "See? This is the rot I told you about." But you are not listening with his ears. You are listening with the ears of a committee member, a purveyor of secrets and lies. You are listening for the cracks. Your mind cross-references the details with manifests, troop dispatches, and reports you have spent months memorizing. Most of it aligns. The stories of dysentery, of squabbling between regiments, of meager rations, those are all true, the sad common knowledge of the Northern campaign. Her story is built on a foundation of truth, which is what makes it so believable. She continues, talking about the planned assault on Quebec. "Captain Davies told us," she says, "we were to be the vanguard. A diversionary attack from the west, through the woods past Saint Rouf, while the main force assaulted the walls." Quote, and there it is, a detail so small, so specific, it should be perfect. But it's not. You hold up a hand, interrupting her. "Wait!" Both she and Daniel look at you. Daniel's face clouds with annoyance at the interruption. "Let her speak, Juno." You ignore him, your eyes boring into Jemima. The west side of the city, past the St. Roch suburb that's all marshland. Impassable for a vanguard force, especially in late autumn. General Montgomery's own surveyors confirmed it last year. An officer planning an assault would know that. It's suicide. Jemima blinks, her mask of naive terror flickering for just a fraction of a second. He was a fool, an arrogant man. He may have been, you say, your voice turning cold, but he wasn't a geographer. That level of tactical detail, a diversion through St. Roch, that wasn't in any official plan. It was, however, a piece of misinformation. Brigadier General Arnold was deliberately feeding to a suspected spy in his own camp 2 months ago. A rumor designed to be captured. The silence in the cabin is absolute, broken only by the crackle of the fire. Jemima's face has gone pale beneath the grime. Daniel stares at you, confusion warring with dawning suspicion. "What are you saying?" he demands. You rise to your feet, walking slowly around the fire until you are standing over Jemima. You are no longer the compassionate savior. You are the interrogator. "I'm saying she has a remarkable memory for a half-starved, terrified deserter. Too remarkable. You mentioned Captain Davies drank French wine. Tell me, what kind?" Quote. Jemima's eyes dart from you to Daniel, looking for an escape. I don't know." It was red. "Was it a Bordeaux? Or perhaps a Burgundy?" You press, your voice like steel. "The kind of thing a wealthy Philadelphia quartermaster might have shipped in his personal effects? The kind of thing a common soldier wouldn't know the name of, but someone who had spent time in an officer's tent, perhaps as a guest, not a prisoner, might?" Quote. She says nothing. Her trembling has stopped. A new, hard stillness has taken its place. You lean down, your face inches from hers. The 3rd Pennsylvania Regiment was never at Crown Point. They spent the entire summer reinforcing the old French lines at Ticonderoga. Their quartermaster couldn't have sold barrels of beef at a garrison he was never stationed at. You let the words hang in the air. Your story is a masterpiece, Jemima. A tapestry woven from threads of truth and seasoned with just enough verifiable suffering to be utterly convincing. But you got the pattern wrong. She looks up at you, and in that moment, the naive, broken girl vanishes completely. Her eyes, once wide with fear, are now cold and hard with a hatred that chills you to the bone. Her voice, when she speaks, is not the raspy whisper of a victim, but the clear, defiant tone of a zealot. "He said you were clever," she spits, the words dripping with venom. "Major Holland. He said you were a fanatic, but a clever one. He said your pride in your cause was a weakness, that you would believe any story that proved you were smarter than your superiors." Quote. Daniel pushes himself to his feet, his face a mask of disbelief. "Major Holland? The British Army cartographer? What are you talking about?" Jemima turns her defiant gaze on him. "You were the key, you fool. The useful pessimist. Major Holland knew of you, knew you were Gray's cousin. He knew you despised this rebellion. He made sure I was found in that barn, made sure you would be the one to find me. You were so eager to believe the worst of your own people that you delivered me right to her, his perfect weapon." Quote. The blood drains from Daniel's face. He staggers back a step, as if struck. He wasn't a hawk finding prey. He was a bird dog, sent to fetch a quarry he didn't understand. His cynicism, his most deeply held conviction, had been turned into a tool by the very empire he professes to support. "My brother is dead," Jemima snarls, all pretense gone. "He died of the flux in a filthy tent while men like her signed papers and talked of liberty. This whole country is a lie. I would see it burn to the ground before I let it be ruled by hypocrites and butchers in homespun coats. Major Holland promised my family safe passage to Nova Scotia. He promised me revenge." Quote. The tide has not just turned, it has become a tidal wave, crashing over you both. Your plan to use her to expose corruption has crumbled, revealing a far more terrifying truth. You weren't uncovering rot, you were being infected with it. Her mission was to get this story to you, to have you, a trusted committee member, spread it like a plague through the Army's ranks, turning soldier against officer, destroying morale from within. Your righteous anger, your secret plan, it was all part of their design. You look at Daniel. The smug certainty is gone, replaced by a raw, horrified vulnerability. He thought he was striking a blow for order and loyalty, exposing the rebellion's fatal flaws. Instead, he has been a pawn in a British intelligence plot, his family name, and his deepest beliefs, manipulated to serve an agenda far more cynical than his own. The fire casts dancing shadows on the three of you, a tableau of broken plans and devastating truths. Jemima, the spy, her mission failed, but her hatred pure. You, the agent of the rebellion, who almost became the agent of its destruction. And Daniel, the loyalist, who must now stare into the abyss between his ideals and the ugly reality of the methods used to defend them. He looks from Jemima's venomous face to yours, his world shattered. The choice is no longer about which side is right. It's about what to do with the spy in the room. and how to live with the knowledge that you have both been played for fools. His decision now will define not what he believes, but who he is. The silence that falls in the cabin is a physical thing, a crushing weight that smothers the crackle of the fire. The air is thick with the ghosts of your ambition and Daniel's cynicism, both revealed as hollow constructs, puppets in a play you didn't know you were in. Daniel takes a shaky step back, his eyes wide, fixed on Jemima. The look on his face is not anger, not yet. It is the profound, gut-wrenching shock of a man who has built his house upon a rock, only to watch it dissolve into sand. The very people whose worldview he championed, the forces of order, of tradition, of the crown, have used his deepest convictions to make him a fool. You, he stammers, his voice a choked whisper. He turns his gaze from Jemima to you, and in his eyes, you see a universe of accusations. He sees not only her deception, but yours. Your grand, secret plan to root out corruption was just another form of pride, and it led you both into this trap. Jemima, now that her mask is gone, seems to grow in stature. Her hatred is a shield. He knew you'd bring me to her, she sneers at Daniel, her voice filled with contempt for his gullibility. The righteous loyalist, so certain of the rebellion's moral failings. You were the perfect bait. Quote, "Enough, you say," your voice cutting through the poisonous air. The shock has passed through you, replaced by a cold, deadly clarity. You are no longer a co-conspirator with your cousin. You are a member of the Committee of Safety, and you have a British spy kneeling by your fire. The law is unambiguous. The penalty is death. You take a step toward her, your hand moving instinctively toward the pistol at your belt. This is the end game. The lies are done. No! Daniel's voice is sharp, desperate. He moves to stand between you and Jemima, a reflexive, protective gesture that surprises you both. Stop, Juno. Just stop. Get out of the way, Daniel, you say, your voice low and dangerous. This is not your concern anymore. Not my concern? He lets out a harsh, broken laugh. I brought her here. I walked her right into your hands because I believed her. Because men on your side of this war are corrupt. Because soldiers are starving. Her lies only work because they are woven from the truth of your damned revolution. Quote, he is flailing, his arguments no longer aimed at a political opponent, but thrown like stones in every direction. He is wounded, and his pain is turning to rage. And what will you do now? Haul her before your committee? Will you get a medal for it? Will they praise you for cleaning up a mess that I, the fool, made for you? Quote, I will do my duty, you state, the words tasting like ash in your mouth. She is a spy. She was sent to cripple the Northern Army by turning the men against their officers. Do you have any idea how many would have died if she had succeeded? And how many will die if you succeed? He shoots back, his eyes blazing with a new terrifying fire. It's not the fire of a loyalist anymore. It's the fire of an anarchist, of a man who has seen the systems on both sides and found them both rotten. Look at her, Juno. She's a child whose brother died in your war. They used her grief, just as you were about to use her story. Major Holland, your Captain Davies, your committee, you are all the same. You are all just butchers, carving up the world for your own ends, and you don't care who gets caught in the blades. Quote, his words strike closer to home than any of his old, cynical barbs ever did, because for a moment in the forge he wasn't wrong. You were prepared to use her. You were going to unleash her story, a lie you believed to be true, to serve your own ends. The parallel is grotesque, undeniable. This is the choice, then, he says, his voice dropping, becoming thick with a terrible, final weight. He looks from you to Jemima, who watches you both with a venomous smirk, enjoying the schism she has created. This is what it comes down to, not flags or kings or congresses. Just this. You, with your gun and your cause. And her. He gestures to Jemima. What are you going to do, cousin? Are you going to kill her to prove your loyalty to a revolution that starves its own children? Or are you going to show one single scrap of mercy and prove you are better than the monsters you claim to fight? Quote, the air crackles. This is the crucible. Your family, your blood stands before you, pleading, no, demanding that you betray your cause. He is testing you, asking you to choose him, to choose the personal over the political, to choose the mercy that your brother Thomas would understand, over the brutal necessity that the war demands. The letter in your pocket feels like it's burning a hole through your coat. The lines are being drawn ever deeper, Juno. You never imagined the deepest line of all would be drawn right here, in this ruined cabin between you and him. You look at Daniel's desperate, pleading face. You see the boy you caught frogs with, the cousin whose pessimism was always a dark mirror to your own hope. To choose his path is to choose family. To let Jemima go, to spirit her away into the night, to erase this entire affair. It would be an act of rebellion against the rebellion itself, a shared secret that would bind you and Daniel together in a way you haven't been since childhood. It would be a statement that some things, like blood, are more important than causes. Then you look at Jemima. You see the cold triumph in her eyes. You see the fanatic ready to die and see the world burn with her. If you let her go, what happens? She doesn't simply vanish. She is a weapon. A story. Major Holland is still out there. He will find another way. Another grieving sister. Another cynical cousin. He will use her again. The poison she carries isn't in her blood. It's in her memory, in her mission. To release her is not an act of mercy. It is an act of negligence. It is sacrificing unknown hundreds, perhaps thousands, on the altar of your own personal peace. You cannot do it. Your heart breaks, but your will hardens. You have to sacrifice the boy who caught frogs to save the cause you believe in. You have to sacrifice your cousin to protect your brother. I am not like them, Daniel, you say, your voice quiet, devoid of anger, filled only with a grim certainty. They use lies to destroy. I am using the truth to preserve. You raise your eyes to meet his. The truth is, she is a danger. The truth is, people will die if she is free. That is the only truth that matters now. Quote, the hope in Daniel's eyes dies. It is extinguished as surely as if you had thrown a bucket of water on the fire. He sees your choice. He sees you have chosen the cause over him. He stares at you for a long moment, and in that gaze, you feel the final fraying thread of your shared history snap. Then you've lost, he whispers, the words hollow. You've won your argument, Juno, but you've lost. You've become what you fight against. Another zealot who believes the ends justify the means. Quote, he doesn't shout. He doesn't rage. The fight has gone out of him, replaced by a profound, empty sorrow. He looks at you as if you are a stranger. Someone he once knew but who has been replaced by this cold, hard-eyed creature of the committee. I wish you'd just stayed home, he says, his voice cracking, as he echoes the fear from your brother's letter. He turns his back on you, on the whole scene. He doesn't spare Jemima another glance. He walks out of the ruined cabin and into the blackness of the woods. Without looking back, the sound of his footsteps on the dead leaves a fading, final farewell. He is gone. The loss is a physical blow, knocking the air from your lungs. For a moment you can't breathe. You have saved the revolution from a threat, but you have severed a piece of your own soul to do it. The silence he leaves behind is worse than the one that came before. It is the silence of abandonment. You turn back to Jemima. The smirk is gone from her face, replaced by a flicker of fear. With Daniel gone, she has lost her shield. It is just you and her, judge and prisoner. Get up, you say, your voice flat. You pull a length of rope from your satchel and bind her hands, your movements efficient and impersonal. She doesn't resist. She seems to understand that the game is over. As you lead her out into the cold night back toward the village, she speaks one last time, her voice low. My brother believed in it, in liberty. He died for nothing. No, you say, your eyes fixed on the path ahead. He died for an idea. The idea is worth fighting for. It's the men I'm not always sure of. Quote, it's the most honest thing you've said all night. You make peace with the sacrifice, not by ignoring the cost, but by acknowledging it. You have lost your cousin. You have seen the depths of your enemy's depravity and the frightening reflection of it in your own heart. The war demands sacrifices, and tonight it took one of your own. You march on into the darkness, a spy in tow. The weight of your choice, a new, cold companion on the long road ahead. The letter in your pocket is no longer a source of comfort or fear. It is a relic of a world that no longer exists. The walk back to the village is a silent pilgrimage through a world drained of color and warmth. The rope in your hand is a physical link to the choice you have made. Each tug from Jemima, a reminder of the cousin you have just lost. His final words, I wish you'd just stayed home, are a rhythm for your footsteps, a funeral dirge for your shared past. The woods are no longer just woods. They are a witness to your betrayal. The darkness is not an absence of light, but a presence, suffocating you with the weight of what you have done. You have chosen the cause, the abstract idea of a nation, over the tangible reality of your own blood. You tell yourself it was the only choice. You tell yourself it was for Thomas. You tell yourself these things over and over, hoping that if you repeat them enough, they will eventually feel like the truth. You don't take Jemima to the jail. You cannot. To do so would be to answer questions you cannot afford to have asked. Who found her? Where? How was her story unraveled? Daniel's name would surface, and his life, already shattered, would be forfeit. So you lead her back through the sleeping alleys, back to the cloying waxy scent of the chandler's shop. Mr. Hemlock answers your knock with the same quiet gravity as before, his eyes asking the questions his mouth does not. He sees the rope on Jemima's wrists, the hard set of your jaw, and seems to understand. He simply nods and gestures again toward the trap door. Down in the earthy chill of the root cellar, you push Jemima onto a pile of old sacks. The single candle flame dances, casting your shadow, monstrous and huge, over her. She looks up at you, the defiant hatred now gone, replaced by a hollow, terrifying emptiness. The zealot has been consumed by the reality of her failure. "What will you do with me?" she asks, her voice flat. The question of a woman who already knows the answer. "Tomorrow I will take you to the committee," you say, the words feeling alien and formal in the small space. "I will report that I found a deserter attempting to flee the county. I will report that under questioning, she confessed to being a spy in the employ of Major Holland of the British Army." Quote, "You will leave out your cousin," she states. "It's not a question. He was your dupe," you reply, your voice cold. "He was a tool you used. As far as the committee is concerned, he doesn't exist. You are protecting him, but it is the cold protection of a surgeon excising a limb. It is not an act of love, but of damage control." The next morning, you do exactly that. You stand before the 3 other members of the Committee of Safety, a grim-faced farmer, a portly merchant, and a fire and brimstone preacher, in the front parlor of the tavern. Jemima stands between 2 militiamen, silent and still. You recount the story, a heavily redacted version of the truth. You are the sole protagonist. The clever agent who saw through a deserter's tale, who broke her under interrogation and uncovered a dastardly British plot. They listen, their faces hardening with each detail. Major Holland's name is met with curses. The idea of using propaganda to incite mutiny is seen as a new, despicable form of warfare. There is no nuance in this room, no room for the gray complexities of a girl whose grief was weaponized. There is only the black and white of treason. "The penalty is clear," says the preacher, his eyes alight with righteous fire. "The good book and the laws of Congress are in agreement on this point. An eye for an eye. A life for a life. She sought to kill our cause, and so she must be unmade." The merchant, Mr. Gable, whose fortunes are tied to a rebel victory, nods vigorously. "An example must be made. A public example. We must show the Crown that their vipers will find no shelter here." Quote, "You feel a cold sickness spread through your gut, a public example. You see the gallows being erected on the village green. You see the faces of the townspeople, a mix of morbid curiosity and grim satisfaction. You hear Daniel's voice in your head. Are you going to kill her to prove your loyalty to a revolution that starves its own children? A public hanging will create a martyr, you say, your voice carefully neutral. You are not arguing for mercy, but for strategy. It is the only language they understand. Major Holland wants to sow discord. A public spectacle will do his work for him. It will make us look like the tyrants the loyalists claim we are. It will turn the uncertain against us." Quote, the farmer, a man named Silas, who has been silent until now, squints at you. "What do you propose then, Gray? We give her a biscuit and send her on her way?" Quote, "No," you say, the plan forming out of the ice in your veins. "She must be dealt with, swiftly. Quietly." She disappears. A report is sent to General Gates informing him of the plot and its failure. We list her as an enemy combatant, executed while attempting to escape. There is no spectacle, there is no martyr, there is only a threat that has been neutralized. The room is silent as they consider your words. It is a brutal calculus. You are arguing for a quiet murder over a public execution. The preacher looks disappointed, robbed of his sermon on the gallows, but even he cannot deny the cold logic. Mr. Gable sees the wisdom in avoiding anything that might disrupt business. "It is settled," Silas says, his voice flat. He turns to the militiaman. "Take her to the old smokehouse behind the mill. Wait for Gray. It will be done before midday." The world narrows to the smell of curing meat and damp earth. The smokehouse is windowless, the air thick and still. Jemima doesn't plead. She doesn't cry. She just stands there, her hands still bound, her eyes fixed on some point beyond the dark wooden walls. She seems to have retreated to a place you cannot reach, a place where her dead brother is waiting for her. The militiamen stand outside, leaving you to your work. This is the price of command. This is the cost of your choice. You must be the one to see it through. Your duty is a pistol in your hand, heavy and cold. You raise it, the barrel level with her chest. Her eyes finally meet yours. There is no fear in them, only a profound, weary sadness. "He believed you," she whispers. "You know she means her brother?" "He believed in the cause. In liberty. In you." Your finger tightens on the trigger. Outside, a bird sings, oblivious. A hammer rings on an anvil somewhere in the village, a sound of creation in a moment of utter destruction. You have become the thing Daniel accused you of, a zealot who believes the ends justify the means. The shot is a deafening crack in the silence, a final, brutal end to a story that began with a letter from home. You walk away from the smokehouse and do not look back. You spend the rest of the day in a haze, moving through the motions of your life, the ghost of your choice clinging to you like the smell of wood smoke. The shadows of doubt are no longer shadows, they are a shroud. You have killed a girl to protect a cause, and in doing so, you wonder if you have killed the best part of yourself. That evening, you find yourself back in the forge. The fire is banked, the embers glowing a soft, forgiving orange. This space feels different now. It is not a sanctuary or a courtroom, it is a confessional. You pull the letter from your pocket. The paper is soft, fragile, threatening to disintegrate. You unfold it, your hand shaking, and read your brother's words again. The lines are being drawn ever deeper, Juno. You had thought the lines were between you and Daniel, between patriot and loyalist, between your committee and her spy. But you see now, the deepest line is the one drawn within yourself. The line between the person you were and the person you have been forced to become. The line between hope and necessity. But the fear, sister, the fear is a worse plague than any army. You finally understand. You are not afraid of the redcoats. You are not afraid of the hangman's noose. You are afraid of the rot. The rot that created a Captain Davies who eats ham while his men starve. The rot that allowed a Major Holland to so easily exploit the rebellion's weaknesses. The rot that forced you to kill a child in a smokehouse to prevent a greater disaster. You have been fighting the symptoms, pruning the diseased leaves. But the sickness is in the roots. A new feeling rises through the despair, sharp and clear. Not hope. Not yet. Determination. Cold, hard, and absolute. You cannot bring Daniel back. You cannot bring Jemima back. You cannot wash the blood from your hands. But you can give their sacrifices meaning. You will not let this cause, this flawed and beautiful and terrible idea of a new world, be devoured from within. You will become its physician. You will cut out the cancer, no matter how deep it goes. Your alliance with Daniel is broken, but the plan he unwittingly inspired is more vital than ever. You sit at the blacksmith's cold anvil, using it as a desk. You pull out a fresh sheet of paper and a vial of ink. You begin to write, not to the committee, but to a man you trust within the Continental Army, a colonel from your own county. You write of mundane things, the harvest, local politics, shared acquaintances. But you embed a message within the words, a code you established long ago. You tell him of Major Holland's tactics. You give him the name of the 3rd Pennsylvania's quartermaster, suggesting he look into the man's remarkable luck at acquiring silver. You warn him about the marshland west of Saint-Roch, a seemingly useless detail that will signal to him the source of your intelligence is not to be questioned. You are not inciting mutiny, as you once threatened. You are performing surgery. You are giving a good man the scalpel he needs to begin cutting away the disease. You fold the letter, sealing it with a drop of wax. The small flame eats at the corner of your brother's letter, turning his words to black ash. It is an offering, a promise. You have sacrificed your past, your family, your peace of mind. You will not let that sacrifice be for nothing. The shadows of doubt still loom, but you are no longer lost in them. You have found your path through the darkness, and it is lit by the cold, unwavering fire of your renewed and terrible purpose. The weeks that follow are a study in gray. You move through your days with the grim efficiency of a clockwork automaton, your duties on the committee a series of familiar motions that keep you from thinking too deeply. The memory of the smokehouse is a permanent resident in the back of your mind, a cold spot that no fire can warm. You sign the requisitions, listen to the endless debates, and root out suspected Tory sympathizers, your face an unreadable mask. You have become remarkably good at your job. The creative deceit that once served you now insulates you, a necessary armor against the ghosts of your own making. Winter has begun to tighten its grip on the village, the first hard frosts silvering the dead grass on the green each morning. News from the Northern Army is a rare and often grim commodity, usually consisting of little more than rumors of retreat and disease. Then, one frigid day, a rider arrives, his horse lathered and steaming in the frigid air. He carries dispatches for the committee, and the village gathers in the tavern's common room, hungry for any word from the front. Mr. Gable, the portly merchant, reads the dispatch aloud, his voice booming with unaccustomed cheer. It's not news of a grand battle, but something smaller, more significant. A series of courts-martial at Fort Ticonderoga. A certain quartermaster of the 3rd Pennsylvania Regiment has been found guilty of selling army provisions and has been summarily cashiered, his illicit gains seized for the troops. A Captain Davies, known for his cruelty and incompetence, has been reassigned to a remote supply depot in Albany. A planned British raid near Crown Point was ambushed and routed, thanks to, quote, timely and precise intelligence. The dispatch concludes that with the change in leadership and the sudden appearance of proper supplies, morale among the regiments has surged. The men are talking of victory again. A cheer erupts in the tavern. Men clap each other on the back, and mugs of ale are raised. They see a victory against the British, a turning of the tide. You see something else. You see your letter. Your scalpel, wielded by a distant, competent hand, has successfully excised a piece of the cancer. The room is warm and loud with celebration, but all you feel is the profound, chilling silence of the smokehouse. This victory, this surge of hope that fills the room, was purchased with Jemima's life. You look at the cheering faces and see the terrible, necessary lie you have created. You gave them this victory. The cost is a secret you will carry to your grave. You slip out of the tavern, the sounds of celebration fading behind you, leaving you alone with the cold and your ghosts. Later that night, you find yourself drawn back to the blacksmith's forge. The great doors are shut against the biting wind, but you enter through the small side door, the familiar smell of coal smoke, and old iron a strange comfort. The forge is your confessional, your sanctuary, the place where the world broke, and you began to piece it back together in a new, more terrible shape. You stand before the great, cold anvil, its scarred surface a map of violent creation, and run your hand over its chilled steel. This is where you made your promise. A floorboard creaks behind you. You don't jump. You don't reach for your pistol. Somehow, you are not surprised. You turn slowly. Daniel stands just inside the doorway, a silhouette against the sliver of moonlight from the poorly fitted door. He looks thinner, his face etched with hard lines the firelight had hidden that night in the cabin. The cynical certainty is gone, replaced by a hollowed-out weariness that seems to have aged him a decade. "I heard the news," he says, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. "A great victory for the cause. The corrupt are punished, the righteous are rewarded. You must be very proud. The words are a test, a bitter invitation to a fight you have no intention of joining." "It was necessary," you say, your voice as quiet as his. He closes the distance between you, stopping on the other side of the anvil. It stands between you like a tombstone. "I went to see her family, Juno. The Bakers. I told them she was dead, that she'd been killed in a skirmish. A hero." He lets out a short, humorless breath. "Her mother gave me her things. A book of Psalms. A ribbon she won at a county fair. She wept and thanked me for my kindness." His eyes, dark pools of shadow, finally meet yours. "I lied to a grieving mother, cousin. It seems I'm learning your trade." The pain in his voice is a blade twisting in your gut. "Daniel, Don't," he cuts you off, holding up a hand. "Don't say you're sorry." "Don't say it was for the greater good. I didn't come here for that." He leans his hands on the anvil, his knuckles white. "I came because you were right. And I was right. and we were both wrong about everything. Quote, he looks down at the scarred steel. I hated this rebellion because I saw its hypocrisy, its arrogance. I thought loyalty to the crown, to order, was the only sane choice. But Holland, he showed me the truth. The crown is just as rotten. They used a child's grief as a weapon. They used my principles to make me their pawn. They don't want order. They want submission. And they will burn this entire country to the ground to get it. Quote, he looks up again, and you see a new light in his eyes. It's not hope, it is the cold, hard glint of purpose. They are two sides of the same debased coin, your committee and His Majesty's generals. But one of them is fighting in my home. One of them is threatening our family. Your side. He pauses, letting the words hang in the air. But his side is the one that sent the snake into our garden. Quote, you hold your breath, realizing where this is going. The world seems to tilt on its axis. I can't be a loyalist anymore, he says, the admission costing him dearly. Not for them. And God knows I can't be a patriot for you. But I can be a son and a cousin. I can protect my own. He straightens up, his decision made. Holland thinks I'm a fool, a bitter, disillusioned Tory who hates the rebellion. Let him think it. Let them all think it. I can go to their meetings. I can listen to their plans. I can become the most fervent, most trusted loyalist in this county. The audacity of it takes your breath away. He is offering to do willingly what Jemima did by deception. He is offering to become a spy. What would you get from this? You ask, your voice a whisper. Revenge, he says, the word a chip of ice. And a chance to choose my own side. My side is Thomas. It's our parents. It's this village. It's you, damn you. He points a finger at you. I will not stand by and watch you all get crushed between these two machines. If I'm going to be a tool, I'll be a tool for our survival, not for some lord in London. Quote, this is the surprising alliance. Not a reconciliation of cousins, but the forging of a weapon born from shared trauma. He is offering you the one thing you need most. Intelligence. A window into the enemy's heart. What are the terms? You ask, your mind already racing, calculating the risks, the possibilities. The terms are simple, he says, his voice hard. You and I are the only ones who know. Not your committee, not your colonel, no one. I feed you information. What you do with it is your concern. But if I am ever caught, if my name is ever spoken, you don't know me. You will call me a traitor and watch me hang. And I will do the same for you. It is a suicide pact, an alliance of ghosts. He is asking you to trust him completely, even as he confirms he will betray you to save himself. It is the most honest, and therefore the most believable offer you have ever received. Agreed, you say without hesitation. A silent understanding passes between you in the gloom. You are not the children who caught frogs in the creek. You are not even the adversaries who argued in this forge weeks ago. You are something new. Two broken pieces of the same family, reforged into a single, dangerous entity. He is your eyes and ears among the enemy, and you are his sword in the rebellion. He gives a single, curt nod. Major Holland is looking for a new network to move messages south to the garrison in New York. He's trying to recruit the ferrymen at Cooper's Point. He has already begun. He turns to leave, pausing at the door. Be careful, Juno, he says without looking back. The world you wanted is gone. This is the one we have to live in. He slips out into the night, leaving you alone in the forge. The air is no longer heavy with despair. It is charged with a terrifying, electric potential. The small victory against the army's corruption was a balm. But this is a weapon. The whispers of hope you'd heard in the tavern were a pale imitation of the roar of possibility that now fills your head. You have lost your cousin, but you have gained an ally, and in a war fought in the shadows, that is a victory worth any price. The months that follow are a silent, desperate prayer. The pact you forged with Daniel over the cold anvil becomes the central axis of your existence. His messages are slivers of paper, tucked into the false bottom of a grain sack or left beneath a specific stone in the churchyard wall. Terse, coded warnings of troop movements, supply convoys, and loyalist sympathizers. You, in turn, filter this raw intelligence, laundering it through your own channels, presenting it to the committee or your colonel as the product of your own network. You are a fulcrum, balancing the fate of the rebellion on the word of a man who despises it, a man whose life you have agreed to sacrifice if the need arises. Each small success, an intercepted shipment, a thwarted raid, is a private victory that tastes like ash, a testament to an alliance born of mutual ruin. The spring thaw comes not with relief, but with dread. The frozen roads turn to mud, and the armies, dormant through the winter, begin to stir. Then comes the message you have been fearing. It is not a sliver of paper, but Daniel himself, appearing at your quarters in the dead of night, his face pale and grim. General Howe is moving a detachment north from New York. Not a large force, but a seasoned one. 2 regiments of foot and a company of dragoons. Their objective, the supply depot at Parker's Mill, just 5 miles from your village. A depot filled with the winter's collection of salted meat, flour, and, most importantly, the gunpowder you have spent months gathering. The Continental Army is weeks away, engaged with the main British force to the south. Parker's Mill is on its own. Your home is on its own. There is no time to appeal for aid. There is only the frantic ringing of the church bell in the pre-dawn chill, a sound that rips the village from its sleep. You stand on the green, the same green where you once read your brother's letter, and watch as men stumble from their homes, their faces a mixture of confusion and fear. They are farmers, blacksmiths, chandlers, and weavers. They are not soldiers, but you have their names on a militia roster, and you have 150 muskets stored in the church crypt. Howe's regulars are coming, you shout, your voice raw on the cold air. They mean to take the mill. If they take the mill, they take our food, our powder, and our hope. We are all that stands between them and starving out the army in the north. Quote, You see Silas, the grim-faced farmer from the committee, his jaw set. You see Mr. Hemlock, the chandler, his doughy face pale but resolved. You see boys no older than Thomas, their eyes wide with a terrifying excitement. Daniel's intelligence was specific. The British, confident in their superiority, will take the direct road, crossing at the old stone bridge. It is a natural choke point, a place where a small, determined force might just stand a chance. It is your only hope. Hours later, you are lying on your belly in a shallow ditch, the damp earth seeping through your waistcoat. The air smells of wet leaves and raw fear. Around you, 140 men are hidden behind stone walls and ancient trees that line the road leading from the bridge. Your militia. Your neighbors. You clutch a long rifle, its stock smooth and cold against your cheek. It feels alien in your hands, a tool of destruction you have only ever commanded others to wield. Your creative mind, so adept at spinning lies and conspiracies, feels useless here. There is no deceit in a musket ball. There is only the brutal, simple truth of impact. The waiting is a unique form of torture. It stretches time, each heartbeat a drumbeat in the suffocating silence. You watch a beetle crawl over a blade of grass an inch from your nose, its tiny, ordered world oblivious to the cataclysm about to unfold. You think of your brother's letter, of his fear of the lines being drawn ever deeper. You are lying in one of those lines now, a trench scraped from the mud, and you have dragged your entire village into it with you. Then you hear it. A faint, rhythmic thudding. It grows steadily, the sound of hundreds of booted feet marching in perfect unison, the sound of a machine built for killing. A ripple of terror passes through your hidden line. A boy near you begins to whimper. Silas, lying a few feet away, growls at him to be silent. The first redcoats appear at the far end of the bridge, their coats a startling, arrogant red against the green landscape. They move with a fluid, terrifying confidence, their bayonets glinting in the pale morning light. They are a river of red and steel, and you are a dam of earth and flesh. The plan is simple. Let their vanguard cross. Wait for the main body to be on the bridge itself, a compressed, perfect target. Then unleash hell. But simple plans are the first casualty of battle. The seconds stretch into an eternity. You can hear the jingle of their harnesses, the commands of their officers. Your finger is slick with sweat on the trigger. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic prisoner demanding release. Silas gives the signal, a sharp whistle, like a hawk's cry. The world explodes. A single ragged volley erupts from your line, a wall of smoke and noise that tears the morning apart. You see redcoats stumble and fall on the bridge. A horse screams, a terrible, high-pitched sound. You fire your own rifle, the recoil a brutal punch to your shoulder, the smoke blinding you for a moment. You have no idea if you hit anything. It doesn't matter. You are part of the machine now. The British regulars are professionals. They do not panic. They are staggered, but they react instantly. Officers bark orders, and the disciplined lines dissolve into a crouched, efficient firing formation, unleashing a volley of their own. The air above your head cracks and hisses with the passage of lead. You hear a wet, percussive thud nearby, followed by a choked groan. The boy who was whimpering is silent now. The next hour is a blur of chaos, a descent into a primal state of reloading and firing. You work frantically, your fingers clumsy with powder and ball. Pour the powder. Ram the ball. Prime the pan. Raise, aim, fire. The motions become automatic, a desperate ritual against the encroaching terror. The air grows thick and acrid with gunpowder, the smoke burning your eyes and throat. The world is reduced to flashes of red through the shifting gray haze, the constant roar of musketry, and the screams of wounded men. You see Mr. Hemlock, the gentle Chandler, slump forward over the stone wall, a dark stain spreading across his back. You see a farmer you've known your whole life run screaming from the line, only to be cut down by a charging dragoon who has managed to ford the creek. The line is wavering. The weight of professional fire is too much. Men are starting to break, to crawl backward, to melt away into the woods. Silas roars, "Stand fast! For your homes!" But his voice is swallowed by the din. This is the moment of collapse. Your mind, numbed by the violence, suddenly clears. Your deceitful nature, your ability to shape reality with words, finds its footing even here. You scramble to your feet, heedless of the bullets cracking past. They're falling back! You scream, the lie raw and desperate. Their flank is breaking! One more volley! Now, for a heartbeat, no one reacts. Then a few men, hearing your conviction, turn back. They fire. Then more. The lie becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your desperate volley catches a fresh wave of British troops advancing from the bridge. They falter, their charge broken by the unexpected resistance. An officer on a white horse goes down, and for the first time, a flicker of confusion shows in their ranks. It's enough. The momentum has shifted. You have bought a few more minutes. But the cost is staggering. Your line is a ragged, bleeding thing, and their numbers are still overwhelming. You reload, your hands slick with someone else's blood. You aim at a red coat, fire, and see him fall. There is no feeling, no triumph, just the cold, mechanical repetition of the task. You are no longer Juno Gray, committee member. You are a gear in a machine of death, and the only goal is to keep turning until the other machine breaks first. The breaking point comes 2 hours in, not from a brilliant charge or a tactical masterstroke, but from simple, brutal arithmetic. You have the better position, they have the better soldiers, but they are bleeding men on a bridge with no cover. Their officers, realizing the cost is too high for a mere supply depot, finally give the order to withdraw. The retreat is orderly, professional, but it is a retreat. The firing slackens, then dies out, replaced by the awful, echoing silence and the chorus of the wounded. You have won. You lower your rifle, your arms trembling with exhaustion. The silence is more terrifying than the noise. You push yourself to your feet and look out over the scene. The old stone bridge is slick with blood, littered with the bodies of men and horses. The creek below runs pink. The field around you is a tableau from hell. Men lie in twisted shapes, their faces pale, their eyes staring at a sky they can no longer see. Others cry out for water, for their mothers, for God. Victory does not feel like triumph. It feels like a wound. You walk the line, your feet leaden. You step over the body of the boy who had been next to you. His eyes are open, filled with a terrible, final surprise. You find Silas propped against a tree, a crude bandage wrapped around his leg, his face gray with pain but his eyes fiercely alive. He just nods at you, a gesture of grim respect that carries more weight than any medal. You continue your walk, your victory lap through the fields of the dead. You are cataloging the cost. For every redcoat on the bridge, there is a farmer from your village lying in the mud. These are the men who cheered in the tavern just a few days ago, the men whose families you know. You have saved the gunpowder and the flour. You have secured the cause. But you have butchered your home to do it. You stand on the bridge, looking down at the red water, the weight of your victory settling on you, heavier than any anvil. You saved them, just as you promised yourself you would. You fought the battle, and you won. But looking at the price, scattered in the mud and grass, a cold, hollow question echoes in the silence. Was it worth it? The setting sun paints the clouds in streaks of crimson and orange, a sky that looks like it too is bleeding. You think of Daniel, the spy who made this possible, and the terrible shared knowledge that binds you. You think of Thomas, safe for now, in a world you have just made infinitely more dangerous. The letter from home feels 1,000,000 miles away, a message from another lifetime. You won. But as you stand there, surrounded by the dead, you have never felt more defeated. The air grows cold as the last light bleeds from the sky, and the grim work begins. There are no victors here, only survivors. You move among the wounded like a specter, offering a sip of water from a canteen, tearing strips from your own shirt for a makeshift bandage, murmuring words of comfort that feel like lies in your throat. The living are carried back to the village first, a procession of pain lit by flickering lanterns. The women meet you at the edge of the green, their faces stark and white in the gloom, their silent, searching eyes more terrifying than any volley of musket fire. For every man who stumbles home, another is carried on a makeshift litter, and another does not come home at all. The church becomes a hospital, its pews crowded with groaning men. The aisle becomes a morgue. You help lay them out, one by one, your neighbors, the men you shared a nod with in the market, the boys you watched grow up. You wash the mud and blood from the face of Mr. Hemlock, the gentle chandler who hid a spy for you, and find yourself unable to weep. Your grief is a cold, hard stone in your chest, too heavy for tears. You have been hollowed out, and all that remains is the grim resolve of the surgeon who knows the amputation was necessary to save the patient. 3 days later, the entire village gathers on the green. A long, fresh trench scars the earth near the churchyard, a communal grave for the fallen. The preacher, his voice stripped of its usual fire and brimstone, reads from the book of Psalms. His words are about loss and sorrow, not about righteous vengeance. Then Silas, his leg crudely splinted, pushes himself forward, leaning on 2 muskets as crutches. He looks out over the faces of his neighbors, at the widows in their black shawls, at the children clinging to their mothers' skirts. "They won't write about us in the history books," he says, his voice rough and low, but carrying in the quiet air. "They won't remember the name of this village, or the names of the men we lay in this ground today. But we will, we remember." He pauses, his gaze sweeping over the crowd, landing for a moment on you. "We didn't fight for the Congress. We didn't fight for a flag. We fought for this." He gestures with his chin toward the houses surrounding the green, toward the fields beyond. "For the right to stand on our own ground. For the right to raise our children without a distant king's boot on our necks. We fought for the right to be left alone. That's all liberty is, when you boil it down." Quote, he looks at the raw earth of the mass grave. The price was high, God knows it was high. But the cost of doing nothing would have been higher. We would have lost ourselves. Today, we bury our dead. Tomorrow we start rebuilding. His words are not a grand oration. They are simple, hard-won truths, forged in the fires of the last few days. And in that moment, you feel a profound shift in the very air around you. This is it. This is the birth. Not in a paneled hall in Philadelphia, but here, on a village green scarred by a common grave. A nation is not a declaration. It is a community bound by shared loss and a shared resolve to endure. It is the silent pact to rebuild. The question that has haunted you since the battle, was it worth it, finds its answer not in your head, but in the solemn, determined faces of your neighbors. It had to be. A week later, another dispatch arrives. It contains an official commendation from the Continental Congress, filled with flowery, heroic language that seems to describe a different battle entirely. But buried within the prose is the part that matters. Because you held the line, because the supplies from Parker's Mill were saved, General Gates was able to repel a major British probe in the north. The army held. Your sacrifice was not a meaningless, isolated spasm of violence. It was a linchpin. You read the dispatch to the village, and for the first time since the battle, you see a flicker of something beyond grief in their eyes. You see pride. The names of their dead may be forgotten by history, but their deeds now have a place in it. That night, a small folded piece of paper appears under your door. It's Daniel's hand, the script tight and urgent. Holland is furious. He called the militia's stand an impossible anomaly. He suspects a deeper source. I've been reassigned. They're sending me to New York to work within his primary intelligence hub. The game is larger now. The risks are greater. Burn this. You hold the paper to your candle flame, watching his words turn to black ash, just as you did with your brother's letter. Your alliance of ghosts has burrowed deeper into the heart of the enemy. The war in the shadows goes on, more dangerous than ever. But now you know with absolute certainty what you are fighting to protect. You sit at your small desk, the same one where you once agonized over requisitions, and pull out a clean sheet of paper. You do not write to a colonel or a committee, you write to Thomas. My dearest brother, I hope this letter finds you and our parents well. The winter has been long, but there are signs of spring in the air. Much has happened here. We were tested, and we did not break. You pause, choosing your words carefully, trying to explain the unexplainable. You wrote of the lines being drawn ever deeper. I have seen those lines now. They are not drawn in ink on a map, but in the earth of our own fields. I have seen what happens when ordinary men decide that a line will not be crossed. It is a terrible and a beautiful thing, Thomas. The men who write the speeches and sign the declarations in Philadelphia speak of a new nation. I believe they have it backward. The nation is not a thing they are creating. It is a thing that is already here. It is in the way a farmer helps a blacksmith rebuild his forge after a fire. It is in the quiet courage of a community that buries its dead and then raises a new barn on the foundation of the old one. We have paid a grievous price for this new world, and I know the fighting is far from over. There will be more darkness, more doubt, but the fear you wrote of, the fear that turns neighbors into strangers, I have seen the opposite. I have seen a fear that turns neighbors into brothers. That is what we are building. Not a perfect country, not a land without sorrow, but a place where we have the right to face our own troubles, to make our own mistakes, and to build our own future, however flawed. It is a future I believe in. It is a future worth the fight. Give my love to mother and father. Tell them I am well. Tell them I am home, your loving sister, Juno. You seal the letter and walk to the window. The first pale light of dawn is breaking over the village. The raw earth of the new graves on the green is stark in the gray light, but beyond them, a thin curl of smoke rises from the blacksmith's forge. A light appears in the window of the bakery. The village is waking up. Life, scarred and wounded, is continuing. The dawn of this new nation is not a brilliant, golden sunrise. It is a slow, cold, and quiet creeping of light over a broken landscape. The challenges ahead are immense. The war is far from won, and the peace that follows will be just as difficult, fraught with the politics of men and the ghosts of conflict. But standing here, in the quiet heart of a village that has bled and endured, you feel a sense of hope that is as real and as solid as the cold stone of the church. It is a hope not for an easy future, but for a future that is yours to build upon the ashes, a future defined not by the tyranny you fought against, but by the quiet resilience and shared sacrifice of its people. The sun rises, and for the first time in a long time, you are not afraid of what the day will bring. You are ready for it. The letter to your brother rests on the desk, a small, white rectangle in the gathering gloom. The candle has burned low, its flame a tired, flickering gold. Outside, the sounds of rebuilding have finally fallen silent, replaced by the deep, resonant peace of twilight. The metallic ring of the blacksmith's hammer, a sound that has underscored every moment of your transformation, is gone. In its place, a fragile quiet settles over the village, broken only by the first tentative chirps of crickets in the long grass. You rise from the chair, your body aching with a weariness that goes far beyond the physical strain of battle. It is the weight of choices, of ghosts, of a future you can see but cannot guarantee. You walk out of the small room you call your quarters, and onto the village green. The air is cool and clean, smelling of damp earth, and the distant, sweet scent of wood smoke from a dozen hearths. The sky above is a canvas of deep indigo, brushed with the last, faint strokes of sunset, and pricked with the first sharp diamonds of the evening stars. Your steps are slow, measured, tracing a path you now know by heart. You pass the church. Its doors are open, and a soft yellow light spills from within, but it is no longer a house of frantic prayer or a sanctuary for the wounded. It has returned to being a house of God, a silent witness to the suffering it held. You can almost feel the echoes of the groans, the whispers of last words, but they are fading, absorbed by the ancient stone and the patient pews, becoming just another layer in the long history of this place. Your gaze drifts to the new scar on the green, the long mound of earth where so many of your neighbors now lie. There is no marker yet, just the raw, overturned soil. It is not a monument to victory, but a humble testament to cost. You think of Mr. Hemlock, his quiet loyalty rewarded with a sudden, violent end. You think of the boy who whimpered beside you, his life a brief, panicked note in a symphony of chaos. You have bought a future with their lives, and the debt is one you will carry forever. You walk on, the soft rustle of your boots in the grass the only sound you make. The crickets grow bolder, their chorus swelling into a steady, lulling rhythm that seems to stitch the torn edges of the world back together. It is a sound of permanence, a sound that existed long before any king or Congress, and will exist long after. It is the sound of the earth breathing, patient and unconcerned with the fleeting, violent passions of men. The forge is dark now, a great slumbering beast at the edge of the green. Its fires are banked, its anvils silent. You pause before its great doors, the place where this new chapter of your life began in earnest. It was here Daniel confronted you, his cynicism a weapon. It was here Jemima appeared, a broken child who was, in fact, a razor-sharp tool of your enemy. It was here you forged your terrible alliances, first with a lie, then with a spy. The smell of coal and hot metal seems to linger in the air, a ghost on the breeze, but it is faint, yielding to the scent of the night. The sounds of the forge fade from your memory, replaced by the gentle, insistent music of the crickets. You think of Daniel, a ghost himself now in the heart of New York, playing his part in a nest of vipers. Your silent pact is a taut wire stretched between you, vibrating with unspoken fear and a grim, shared purpose. You have lost your cousin, the boy who caught frogs with you by the creek, and gained a co-conspirator. You wonder if, in the quiet of the night, he too listens to the crickets and feels the crushing weight of the world he has chosen to carry. You wonder if he hates you any less. You suspect he does not, but you also suspect that, like you, he has learned that some things are more important than hate. Survival is one of them. You find a simple wooden bench near the edge of the green, facing away from the village, toward the dark line of the woods and the star-dusted sky. You sit, the old wood cool beneath your hands. The year is not yet over, but your 1776, the year that forged you, is complete. You have been a patriot, a liar, a conspirator, a killer, a soldier, and a leader. You have seen the very worst of men, their greed, their cruelty, their cynical manipulation, but you have also seen their best. You have seen the quiet courage of Silas, the stolid loyalty of Hemlock, the fierce, protective love of a community that refused to break. A nation, you realize, is not born in a single fiery moment of creation. It is not born with the shot of a rifle or the signing of a document. It is born in the quiet moments after. It is born in the mending, the rebuilding, the planting of new seed in scarred earth. It is a choice, made again and again, every single day, by ordinary people who agree to believe in a shared tomorrow, even when the present is steeped in sorrow. The road ahead is long, shadowed with uncertainty. There will be more battles, more betrayals, more loss. But sitting here, in the gentle dark, listening to the timeless chorus of the night, you feel a sense of peace settle over you. Not the peace of victory, but the peace of acceptance. You have found your purpose not in the grand, noisy cause, but in the quiet, resilient heart of your home. This is where the grand speeches and the thunder of cannons fall silent. This is where history gives way to the evening. Feel the cool night air on your skin. Listen to the gentle rise and fall of the crickets, a soft, endless wave washing over the day's anxieties. The heat of the forge has cooled. The sharp smell of gunpowder has been carried away on the wind. All that is left is this moment of profound and earned stillness. The journey was long, the cost was high, but it has led you here to this quiet bench under the stars. The story of 1776 is over. Now there is only the peaceful dark and the soft, lulling rhythm of the night. Let the sounds of the crickets be a gentle whisper, a lullaby for a nation and for a soul finally at rest. Find your own peace in the silence. Reflect and rest.